Yeah, it must be. Must be. Just it makes it more like official. If it's Greek, then it's got to be spiritual and orthodox. The topic today is the faithful are persistent. The faithful are persistent, and particularly over discouragement. That's what we want to get into in all the different aspects of today. So what we're going to do, as we just saw here, Abuna Musa was telling us about Caleb. And that's kind of like the entry. So the entry into the promised land. And as he said, the Lord promised him this land. It's just go take it. Go take it. What we're going to focus on here is kind of like the ending point. So several hundred years after is actually when they even leave exile and Nehemiah starts to build the wall. So again, very, very quick history, of course. So in terms of where Abuna Musa was talking about as Caleb, they were just spying out the land. So Moses brought the people out of Egypt. Joshua brings them into the promised land, conquering everything because the Lord promised them. And out of everything, I was just telling Naveen, my quiet time today, Joshua 14. So that's how we ended. In terms of like Joshua saying, hey, remember 45 years ago, you told me you're going to give me land? So that's actually what I was just reading today. So that was pretty cool. They get the promised land. Years go by, the judges turns into kings. Nobody obeys God. They're taken away captive into Babylon, at the time of Daniel. And then finally, through Ezra, the priest Ezra, and Zerubbabel, they come and build the temple. And then comes Nehemiah to build the walls all around Jerusalem. Guess what happens at that point? Guess what happens to the people? Discouragement. But things are going well. We've left Babylon. We've got our temple. We're starting to rebuild. And we're even building walls around our city. And here comes discouragement. And maybe that's a trait, that's something that happens to us. And I'm very, very happy that Abuna Moros in the Q&A kind of like clarified things a little bit, because we tend to departmentalize our lives. I'm a servant, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a child, I'm a whatever, a garbage man, whatever. I compartmentalize myself. But it has to be part, like, if we are Christians, we are, like, there's no Christianity without giving. There's no Christianity without serving. It's just hand in hand. It's not a title, it's just who we are. So when we're talking, yes, we'll focus maybe a little bit on our service, but think of it as your life, just as my life. Because my whole life is, I'm a servant. I'm a servant of the Lord. So I fall into discouragement, and what we need to get out of that as a faithful servant of God, we'll talk about some of the problems, and then we'll get into the remedies at the very end. Why? Why do I get discouraged? Why do I get discouraged? Number one, fatigue. I'm tired. So here they come. They're all they're all miraculously, the king of the Medes and Persians at the time said, go back to Jerusalem, do whatever you want. Whoever wants to go build your temple, go whatever. Miracle. That's fantastic. Then they start going back, and they get discouraged because of fatigue. The strength of the laborers is failing. We're tired. Like, that's enough. I don't want to build the wall anymore. Like, let's just go back to Babylon. At least we, whatever. They had cool food and whatever. We were under them. There's fatigue that comes in. There's a fatigue that came into them. And maybe when we start serving, I'm tired. I went from Sunday school to servants meeting, and then I have to give a deacon's lesson, and then in the middle of the week they ask me to do a Bible study, and then at work, I've got this great big presentation, and I've got these little things that are like 3 feet tall around my house that I gotta figure out how to entertain them. I'm tired, and fatigue comes in. And it's discouraging because I have no energy. I'm tired. Second reason, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. Like, I've been faithful. I've prepared lessons. I'm a good hubby. You know, I bring a rose every once in a while. I make my husband like his favorite macaroni bechamel and like all this stuff. Like I'm doing good, and I'm taking care of my kids, and I'm saying yes to whatever the priests of the church are telling me. But I'm frustrated. These kids are going crazy. Look what happened to the people. There's so much rubbish. We're not able to build the wall. Can you hear the complaining? Can you hear the complaining and the frustration of the people? Like, there's rubbish. I didn't sign up for this. There's like this stuff in the way. There's rubbish. How am I going to build the wall? There's rubbish. Okay, just to clarify, the kids in your Sunday school are not rubbish. Okay, that's not what do not equate your Sunday school kids to rubbish. That's not the rubbish that we're talking about. So please don't call them, in your prayer, oh God, help this rubbish. Don't, please. The rubbish is all the stuff that's around us. It's all the trivial things that get in our way. There's frustration. Like, why? Like, I prepared this lesson perfectly. Like, I spent so much time. Why aren't they listening? Why don't they care? I've read all these parenting books. Why are my kids still fighting? It's frustrating. I'm getting discouraged now. Like, I've done everything that was asked of me. I've prepared in the most faithful way possible. I'm preparing even my own my own lifestyle. But I'm frustrated. I don't see fruits. I don't see something that's tangible, that's worth all this effort that I'm putting in. And I start to get frustrated, which leads me to discouragement. I'm discouraged now. Don't worry, there's remedies at the end, so hang on. Failure. By the way, obviously, this priests are not shielded. Priests are not shielded from any of these. Like, at least for me, discouragement settles in. So maybe, preparing this, oh boy, I better have good answers for myself here. Because there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration, especially frustration for me is a big one. For 5 years, I've been saying the same thing, at least trying to, for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know when. Maybe this, Abuna, you're doing history of the Coptic Church. Like, when in our history did we, as a people, decide that we can come to church anytime we want? When? What century was that? I would love to know. When? Like, why? I don't like that one member of the congregation misses a word from the Word of God. Not one word. Like, nobody should come after Pauline. Why? How can we be at home if there's a Word of God being preached? 5 years. It's frustrating. But not to the point of discouragement yet. But it's frustrating. Why? Failure. They will neither know or see anything. This is doomed. Like, nobody's gonna know anything here. Because we're frustrated and we've been faithful and we're doing good things, we want to see results. And when we don't see results, it's a failure. We tried this method. I've listened to my Sunday school coordinator, and he told me to be patient and work with the kids, but the kids are, to you, they're rubbish, okay? But they're not rubbish. But it's not working. I've been trying to make my house a Christian house. Nobody's listening to me. So I'm a failure. And it's discouraging. last point, maybe it's fear. And they go hand in hand with failure. Till we come into their midst and kill them, because the work to seize, for whatever place you turn, they will be upon us. Look out. So there's this group, of course, that don't want Nehemiah and the others to be successful. Okay, we're not, and it's a beautiful story, but they don't want them to build the wall. So they're going through them in different ways. They try to, whatever. One of the last ways is they start to get them scared. And maybe we fall into fear, which leads to discouragement. I'm afraid. I'm afraid maybe to try something new. Maybe they're going to criticize me. Maybe they're going to think my idea is terrible, and they're going to ridicule me. And I get afraid. Like I think maybe we should try doing this in terms of, maybe we should try putting more video and maybe making our class interactive. And I'm like, you know what? They're gonna, who am I? And they're just gonna criticize me. And then whatever, it's like the class goes on, my life goes on, and maybe I'm afraid to take maybe a little bit of a risk or a little bit of a different way of doing things in my own life. Maybe I'm afraid to maybe even change jobs. I know maybe my job is a big part of why I don't have time and I'm fatigued and it's not allowing me, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid. What if I, can't get another job? There's fear. Fear standing in my way, and I get discouraged. So whether it's criticism, maybe it's due to embarrassment, or maybe I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. And all these things are leading me to discouragement. The faithful are persistent. The faithful, if we're faithful to God and trust in God, we need to be persistent. We need to have this stick-to-itiveness. We need to have this don't give up. Right? Look, this little, the second picture, by persistence, the snail reached the ark. Right? We know Noah took 100, maybe Noah took 100 years. Maybe he built it in 50, and then he's just waiting for the snails. I don't know. But they made it. They made it, right? And we have some nice escargot now, so thank God they make it. By persistence. Father Matthew the Poor said, persistent in prayer and worship is one of the signs of effective faith. The spirit of perseverance, on the other hand, is a sign of humility and surrender. Let's go back to the first part. Persistence in prayer and worship is one of the signs of effective faith. Faith is part of faithfulness. Faithfulness. Faithfulness, there is no, the two obviously words are interchanged. That sometimes when we read the Bible and sometimes we see the word faith, sometimes it helps to put faithful. Faithful. By persistence. By persistence in our own, again, not only in our service. He says in prayer and worship, but in everything, is a sign of faith, is a sign of a faithful person. That's what a persistent person is. They go hand in hand. We cannot have faith if there's no persistence, and we'll show some examples of that. Also, when I was trying to find other quotes, this one, whatever this says, I'm sure there's lots of words. He could be saying the weather forecast, I'm not sure, but hopefully it kind of makes sense. But that, all right? That, I'm glad it's not about the weather or something, but there you go. Wise words of wisdom about persistence. A river cuts through a rock, not because of its power, but by being persistent. Ever see Niagara Falls? No? You gotta see Niagara Falls. Ever see the fall? Where did this come from? Ever see the Grand Canyon? My goodness. Colorado River. Right? One water, like water, creates this huge canyon by persistence through time. Let's look quickly. Again, we want to link always, again, the faithful are persistent. The faithful are persistent. And the faith and persistence go hand in hand and come to life in many stories of the Bible. We all know this. We all love this. The paralytic was carried by his 4 friends. Come to a door. Jesus is there. Jesus is there. Everybody's there. Everybody's there. Comes to the door. Can't get in. Oh well. Let's just go back. Sorry, buddy. The door is. We can't get in. Got to go to Starbucks. Maybe better luck next time. They persisted. Go to the roof. Okay, the roof. What am I going to do? There's a roof. Oh well, we tried. Oh well. Let's take apart the roof. There's persistence. And he saw it. Remember what Jesus said? And when he saw their faith. And again we can say, when we saw that they were faithful friends, because of their persistence, this miracle occurred. The faith of the friends. What's this story? What's this story? Sorry? Not Lazarus, no. No, not the one that touched Jesus. The one on the right, yes. We talked about the first one. There's only 2, right? Yeah. Sorry? Not the widow of Nain. No? Yes. Yes, the Canaanite woman. Remember the Canaanite woman? The Canaanite woman comes to Jesus. Her daughter is demon-possessed. It's like, Jesus, heal my daughter. Nothing. Jesus, my daughter is demon-possessed. You have the power of Jesus. You can do this, Jesus. Nothing. Jesus, please, have mercy. My daughter is demon-possessed. Then comes in the disciples. Can you send her away? She's annoying. I don't want to hear her nagging anymore. Jesus, send her away. Jesus, she hears this. She hears the disciples complaining to Jesus, send them away. She continues, Jesus, my daughter. What does Jesus do? What does Jesus do? Do we give bread to the dogs? Okay, we're not going to get into the whole reason. Obviously, we know Jesus enough, and believe it or not, it wasn't insulting, but that's what she was, a Gentile, a Canaanite, a Gentile. So the Gentiles were called dogs. Am I gonna give bread to the dogs? So the disciples are complaining about her. Jesus just called her a dog. What does she do? Jesus. Even even the dogs eat the crumbs of the children. Oh. Jesus saw her faith. Right? Jesus saw her faith. Let it be according to your desire. And of course, she was healed. Persistence. The persistence. Now who's this one?
There you go.
That's one, right? This is the one I came to just wanted to, the woman that had the flow of blood of 12 years. And she went to all these physicians. Nobody can heal her. She goes through a crowd. Just all she wants. Her aim, just persistence through the crowd. Persistence, just if I can touch the Lord's, even garment. And immediately she was healed. Right? Be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well. Your faith. And her persistence. See how faith is going with persistence? See how the faithful are persistent. Lastly, this one's easy, because the whole parable is called the persistent widow. Let's read it quickly. So he spoke a parable to them. And the men always ought to pray and not lose heart, saying, there was in a certain city a judge who did not fear God nor regard men. Now, there was a widow in that city, and she came to him saying, get justice for me, for my adversary. And he would not for a while. But after he said within himself, though I do not fear God nor regard men, yet because this widow troubles me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge said. And shall not God avenge his own elect who cry out day and night to him, though he bears long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he really find faith? See how again? Will he find, out of all the things, faith on the earth? What happened? In one word, what happened? What's this? Let's just say it out. What the word that just happened with this person? She what? That's the word, right? She nagged. I don't know if I'll get in trouble into this, but maybe, is this where you guys that usually sit on this side, is that where, I don't know, is it biblical? Is that why it's nagging? And this, and you saw the results, right? The results was she got what she wanted, so let's just do it 2,000 years later. Sorry? I don't know, it definitely brought results. Look at the 1, 2, 3, the fifth parable. Parable. It didn't happen. Parable. Yes. Yes, the other one. Yes, the Canaanite woman. The bread. She nagged. All right? She nagged. Like, why did he finally give in? This is a judge, because the widow troubles me. Like he enough. Okay, what do you want? Take it. But Jesus is saying this parable for a reason. He's asking us, look at, again, key word, again, let's go back to the beginning so that we don't lose focus here, right? Men always ought to pray and not lose heart. Always ought to pray. This is like the faithful are persistent. And he was saying, what, 45 years? Joshua waited? 45 years, Joshua, and like I said, this was my quiet time today, so it worked out perfectly. So that's exactly what I was reading. And he went after Joshua because there was only two of them. Hey, remember Joshua, me and you? Remember, I was supposed to get land. I'm supposed to get land. Can now that we're here, can I have this land? He remembered. He persisted. He was faithful. As one of us would say. Same with our prayers. Like, why? Why is it that we don't persist in prayer? I pray, nothing happens. I get discouraged. I get frustrated. It's a failure. Maybe because I'm not holy, so I'm a failure in all this. Get discouraged, and there goes the persistency. Men always ought to pray, and women, okay? So men always ought to pray and not lose heart. And not lose heart. That means persist. How does Jesus define faith in this parable? By persistence. Again, the last part. Will he find faith on the earth? The parable starts with prayer and ends with faith. But it's persistent prayer. Prayer isn't, I pray, God, please, every Sunday morning, I pray, please let these kids don't think that Sunday school is a jungle. Please, let them think that, Sunday school is a church, not a jungle. I come, and they're hanging off the chandeliers, and they're like writing on the walls, and like, God, I prayed for no jungle. No more praying. No more praying. I'm frustrated now. I'm discouraged. It didn't work. What are these remedies now? What are these remedies? And how, again, the whole remedy is persistence, okay? But persistence how? Okay, you said how because you said you want to be practical. Practical. So the first one, I'm tired. There's fatigue. Remember, I'm doing this service, running to this service, and running to this service, and pleasing my wife, and entertaining my kids, and presentations, and deadlines at work. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm so tired that I'm discouraged. And now, I know I'm supposed to be faithful, but I'm tired. Rest. If you're tired, rest. Rest. It's a commandment. Right? The Lord, again, and of course the Lord, so many things, like we say about the Lord, his arms, his feet, his eyes, he's angry. Of course, the Lord has no shape. So when we say the Lord rested, he didn't rest like, like gone fishing. Like, see you. I've done my part. 6 days you shall work, at the seventh day you shall rest. You shall rest. He gave them the Sabbath. We think the Sabbath is gone. The Sabbath is still needed for us. The Lord designed us. He created us. He knows that we need rest. To the point, like out of one of our favorite verse, right? From Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all you who are labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I'll give you rest. Rest. Maybe, right? Akalatev was talking about priorities. Maybe there's too much. Maybe, maybe this will come back to the priest, but maybe I have too many, maybe I have too many services. Maybe. Most probably it's something else in our lives, but maybe it is. And maybe it is. So talk, as he mentioned, talk to your confessional father and see. Maybe you're right or maybe you're lazy, okay? That's why you need a confessional father, and you'll say, no, and kick your butt and say, no, you're just lazy. Or you know what, you have a right. Yeah, maybe maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe it is, but maybe it's something else in my life that's happening. And maybe I'm focused on priorities 8, 9, and 10, and I'm really ignoring 1, 2, and 3. So maybe I have to scratch 8, 9, 10. Like, there needs to be rest. Like, who do we think we are? If the Lord designed us to rest and gave us a commandment to rest, I defy that. I'm superhuman. I am Coptic, with a big C. I could do anything. 7 days. Night and day at church. Night and day with my wife. No problem. No, it is a problem. It is a problem. Because the fatigue, because we're human, we will get tired, and tiredness will lead to discouragement. Discouragement will lead me to, maybe I will lose my faithfulness. Maybe even lose some faith. It's important. Evaluate. Evaluate. The solution is easy to rest. But rest from what? What aspect of my life? What thing am I not balancing correctly that I need to rest? Second problem we had is we're frustrated. We're frustrated. We're doing, we're not seeing. I'm working at this. Like, I've read all these Dobson things, and my spouse, no reaction. I've followed all these sermons that I'm listening to, but it's not helping my Sunday school class. I'm frustrated. Where are we going to go to? Where are we going to go to? Again, Father Musa mentioned, in terms of filling ourselves, trusting that the Holy Spirit is guiding us, we need God to help. We need God's help. So many times, shockingly, maybe it's not shockingly anymore because it happens so many times, whether it's during confession or maybe just advice, very few who are maybe frustrated. Did you pray about it? No, but let me tell you why. Let me tell you more about my frustration. And I'll show you why it's not working. Did you ask God? No, 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 no. No, no, you're not listening. Let me tell you why I'm frustrated. Where are we going to get it from? Ourselves? Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you. Is that clear? Is that clear enough? Where am I going to get this help? Where am I if it's a matter of I'm frustrated, where am I going to go when I'm frustrated? I go everywhere except I try to think. Or like I said, we typically get discouraged. And maybe I go and I try something else. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Vain. It'll end up being that way if I don't go seek God's help. Failure. And again, failure is in my eyes, right? Failure is according to what I thought. Failure in my own eyes. Look at this marvelous verse. Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap. If again, we do not lose heart. Remember those exact same words that the Lord said in the parable of praying? Men always ought to pray and not lose heart, meaning persistence. We shall reap if we do not lose heart. Or another way, we shall reap if we persist. Do not grow weary. Don't think it's a failure. There's a nice quote here from Zig Ziglar, who is one of these motivational salespeople. Failure is just a detour. It's not a dead-end street. All right? It's okay. Failure. Like I said, as a priest, I could very much relate to a lot, definitely the fatigue, definitely the frustration, especially frustration. This one I relate less because I fail all the time. I mean, I would try. We should do this in church. Doesn't work. Oh, it's okay. We should do this. I don't have a problem with failure. All right. I'm personally, I'm not afraid to fail. But maybe for us, it's a big thing. Maybe because again, I do it so often. I've got so good at it. It's no problem. Refocus. Maybe it just takes a refocus. Okay. So it didn't work, right? The famous quote about Thomas Edison. I just found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. Okay, just try again. Okay, I figured out why, or I tried this, and my kids are dancing around in Sunday school. Okay, you tried. Now I know what not to do next week. It's not a failure. It's a detour. It's a detour. Do not grow weary. Do not grow weary while doing good. It's just a matter of time. Do not lose heart. It needs that persistence. It needs that ability to not be, to think of it as failure, as, I failed. It's not the end. It's not the end. Fear. So I'm afraid now. I'm afraid to do things because maybe they're going to criticize. Maybe it's I'm going to try it and it's going to be a bomb and it's my idea, and they announced it in church and now everybody knows that my ideas don't work. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. There's a fear. There's a fear factor as the fear factor that they had again in building the wall. Our fear is because we're looking at the wrong thing. Again, we're looking at our situation down instead of looking up. Completely opposite. We're called to always look up, right? When we pray, we pray with our hands. Why do we pray like this? Hands like this. Hands like this. God, fill my hands, right? It's asking I'm coming empty, God. I'm coming empty, you fill. So we pray with our hands pointing up like this. That we can't. So eyes on God. Okay, so if we keep our focus up and we don't look at whatever we've tried, again, whether it's in my own family, whether it's my actual Sunday school, maybe it's something I've done, a project or an event for the church, and like I'm afraid. Why? Why? We say, as St. Paul says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. We look unto him. I press toward the goal or the prize of the upward call of God in Jesus Christ. Press towards it. I point, like my pointing is at God and not on the thing that's getting me scared. The thing that's like, just disabling me to the point of discouragement, to the point of maybe losing my faithfulness. It's like, I don't want. I don't want. Who then is that faithful and wise steward? Faithful and wise. Faithful and wise. They go hand in hand. If we, one more quote and then we're done. But those who are faithful and wise. That's why, again, is one of the points about wisdom from Abuna Samuel that we need. It's both of them, faithful and wise, if we have the wisdom. Like, if we have the wisdom, we can see, like, I'm falling into these traps. I'm falling into all these traps. Who has designed the trap of discouragement? Who has designed the trap of discouragement? Sorry? Satan, right? One of the big things, the biggest things, is discouragement. Discouragement. I'm not going to do any miraculous thing. I just want them to be discouraged. I want the children of God, my enemy, I just want them to be discouraged. Because discouragement will lead them just, to be frustrated, to feel like they're failures, and then they're going to stop. And Jesus, man, always ought to play and not lose heart. Do not lose heart. Do not grow weary. Complete opposite. Complete opposite. Jesus is always on the terms of hope. Right? We cry out in different tunes. We look for the resurrection of the dead and life of the coming age. We look. It's our whole hope. Our hope. And he's saying, no, he wants you just to be discouraged. See how this is a very big trap for the children of God. Again, not for the servants only. Again, for all the children of God, discouragement. Discouragement. To the point, maybe people even leave service. To the point, maybe people even leave, maybe even marriages. I'm discouraged. This doesn't work anymore. There's no persistence. There's no stick-to-itiveness in it. Last quote from C.S. Lewis. God knows our situation, and he will not judge us as if we had no difficulties to overcome. What matters is the sincerity and perseverance of our will to overcome them. What's sincerity? Another word for that? Faithfulness. Faithfulness and perseverance, hand in hand. A faithful person needs to persist. We need to persist. If we don't, we fall into these great traps of discouragement through all these different ways. Thank God we have remedies. Thank God we have him to look upon. Thank God we don't want to fall into that trap and feel like all our service, all our efforts, all our labor is gone. Is gone. And glory be to God forever.
Does anybody have any questions? I think it's okay, so.
Abuna, when you were talking about failure and we need to refocus, and you said we need to keep trying. Maybe you went to Sunday school and then the thing that you tried before, you need to try something else. And also we talk about resistance. Sometimes I feel like I had to be resistant about trying the same thing over and over again. how do I know when to be persistent and trying again the same thing, or when to try different method?
Sure. So how come the fathers, like for me now, like where are the fathers now? Can you bring the fathers? I just know how to do this part. Can you? No, you're discouraged or what? Come, persist, come. Don't leave me here. We have to be, again, faithful. I'll answer this one and then the father will answer all the other ones. Faithful and wise. Is it wise? Like, they don't contradict each other, right? But if I insist, no, I think, like, this is the way, I think this is the way that's going to get to the kids. I'm sure it doesn't work. Okay, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Maybe I wasn't clear, and I try it again. And I persist. But that's persistent foolishness. Faithful and wise. So we can persist. Remember, our goal is to get to the kids, for example. Our goal isn't to get to the kids by this way. That's foolish. How do we know? We try, right? That's why we said that's not failure. We just figured out what not to do, right? We said that that's just a detour. So we just figured out, I failed. And again, for me, it's very easy to say this word. Fail, I fail all the time. I fail. I try something else. So our goal, make sure that our goal is clear. And so we don't persist in a method. We want to persist in our faithfulness. In our, I'm doing everything possible to bring the word of God and whatever, the message of God to these kids. I don't have to persist on one particular way.
When Peter and company could not get any fish during all the night, when they asked the Lord, he said, go to the other side. You were doing it on one side, go to the other side, and they got the fish. So there is time when we don't stop but change.
Thanks, Abuna. That was a very practical and a topic that I think we all deal with. One thing maybe that I wanted to add, maybe get your comment on, is the importance, of all these feelings that we all have of having fellowship and service together, so we can encourage each other. I think we all, I know we do at St. Mark's. I don't know about the other churches, but sometimes we struggle with fellowship meetings or service meetings. But when you reflect, the really more important than the information you're getting in the service meeting, maybe, I'll see your opinion, is the fellowship you have with other servants so you can encourage each other. And also maybe in the individual services, it's really good to have 2 or 3 together, so when one's down a little bit, the other can help you. That's another kind of technique, I think. I work well with Mary, and we always do a lot of services together because when I get lazy, she encourages me. So those are a couple of things that maybe I get your opinion on.
It's excellent. Excellent. 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah, 2 are better than 1, right? In Proverbs, 2 are better than 1. When we're alone, it's easier to fall into all these, failures and frustrations. And so what if we're 2, and the Lord, again, the Lord is so wise. He sent them out 2 by 2.
And if you guys know better than me, but isn't usually divorce is usually because one person feels lonely, right? That's a lot of the feelings you hear is people are lonely, so they get frustrated, and there's no one to help you. So the same with service. When you don't feel lonely, you each encourage each other.
I just had one, it's interesting, you said it's good when we have fellowship, but I'll pose that question to the fathers and maybe to everyone to get an opinion. What happens when the group now becomes an echo room for discouragement? Isn't that the other part of it? Because sometimes we're sitting in a meeting and all of a sudden, la dunya bazit, it's all bad. What are we going to do? And all of a sudden, instead of encouraging each other, it becomes very negative. So Sorry, beat them up? I don't know. This was meant to cross people, not to hit them with. So I think that's a point that we need to think about. How do we not become negative? A lot of times we see this where there are meetings which, rather than picking each other up, it does become a put down. We're all very discouraged. Everyone has something to add that's even worse. Oh yeah, and you know what else? I had this kind of story with no. And all of a sudden it just keeps more negative and more negative. So I think that's something we have to think about. How do we turn the tide in such a meeting where things turn very negative? I think that's just a question I ask.
No, I think, Abuna went through, and first he went through the four things that cause discouragement. And if we get stuck there in our meeting, we have to remember to look at the second half and discuss as well the remedies. But your comment is absolutely true. I'm not sure what we can do. There are certainly other things we can do.
I don't know, what do people think? I want to hear something practical. How do we overcome a negative meeting? Because the meeting is meant to be encouraging. So
I was just going to say, I work in a profession where happens a lot. Teachers are discouraged, and you sit in those professional development meetings, and it's no longer about becoming a better teacher, about your students. It's about, oh, I have this kid, you have that kid too, and the conversation turns to that. So one of the things that our district is really good about doing is when we get into these meetings, we focus on the action steps. We don't focus so much on what the issue is. Like, this is the issue, we know it's an issue, we know everybody has to vent, so get it out, you have 5 minutes. And then now we move on, because everybody wants a vent, everybody wants to say, this is on my chest, and you have to give people that forum. So we do that, we have little small discussions, and then we move right away. It says, okay, so now the next part of our discussion has to move to action steps. What are we gonna do to overcome these issues, or to deal with the student that 4 out of his 5 teachers are struggling? And I'm just giving it from our professional meetings that we sit in. So I guess, you could apply a similar strategy maybe, and just focus maybe on what do we want to get out of it.
Yeah, many times as a servant, we think about planting. We plant something, nothing grow. We did something. We did this. We did mini ceremony. We talk about this topic 100 times, and no change at all. But the problem sometimes we forget what Jesus said. You are not responsible for the fruit. You just responsible just to throw the seed, and I will grow it. The same like the farmer. He does not wait, like he throws a seed one day, and next day, okay, where is the tree? I don't see it. It takes years to come the tree. I remember one story. It happened in Shobra. One priest he went to the church. It was very bad weather, and he wanted to give a ceremony. But unfortunately, no one attends the church. But he insisted to go, even bad weather, and he gave the ceremony, and he started in time, and he started to give the ceremony, and no one in the church. And he finished, and still no one in the church. After 20 years later, he was in a meeting with other priests, and one priest met him. He told him, do you know who brought me to Christ? He told him, what? I don't remember you. He told him, I was a robber. I was running from the police in the street, and I found the church, a door open. I went under a deck, and I was hiding there. And I don't know, you were giving a ceremony there, but I don't know who do you preach. But like I was crying under the deck for a long time, and then I repented. I came to Christ because you. So it is sometimes like the problem is like we look for the fruit. We are so frustrated we cannot find the fruit, but we are not responsible for the fruit. We are responsible just throw the seeds for our friend, for anybody else, and whoever, Jesus, who is going to grow the fruit? Jesus does not ask us, where is your fruit? Where is the fruit of your surface? He asks us, please throw the plant, I will grow it.
How do you know it's just a matter of waiting and not you're doing something wrong?
Okay. Just... So, as long as I do my part, pray for pray for the people I serve. It is the rule of Jesus. I do my best and try to do it. And I'm asking him, please, Jesus, you asked me, I did my part, and you said like I will do my part. Okay, I did. Whatever I can do, I walk my one step, and you can do more. I will leave it to you. I cannot do any more, but I will leave it to you, and I trust you that you will complete my weakness, and I will leave it to him, and he will take care of it.
Okay, so speaking of prayer, and we pray for the people we serve, knowing the kids and when they grow up in the church, we start to see some changes. Some grow liking the church a lot, and they're adapted to like the hymns and lessons, and they want to learn more. But like, for example, I start to notice some kids that are beginning to go astray. Just some signs, like either by peer pressure or like very baby steps that will eventually lead to something like catastrophe later on. So how can we, like as servants, approach something like that, especially since, well, if you talk to the kid, yes, you have a relationship with him or her, but sometimes they might not be accepting to what you're saying, or that they don't feel like they're changing, for example. And at the same time, if you talk to the parents and just give them a tip or just some kind of words like, you know, something is going on, we're not sure what's happening, they might be very resistant to it and might not even believe you. So how can we catch these like little foxes in the beginning before things end up in a very bad state? Because there's signs, like the signs are very clear, and some of the servants are seeing these signs in the kids. And they start to develop from like middle school, and then after middle school, they increase in high school. So.
I think there is no guarantee that, I know it doesn't sound good, but there is no guarantee that we will avoid that 100%. But I think one of the big things that we try to establish with the kids while they're young as we can, to begin a real relationship. This doesn't guarantee that they won't go astray, but it's gonna be a back door. We'll be always reminding them that, no, this is the right thing, this is the best place. So I think we need to work hard to establish this relationship with the kids, that we will be able to, because at a certain, think of a high schooler and a new servant to work with high school. I'm saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's not easy. But if you have a relationship with the kids, I mean, they might go astray, but still the servant has an effect. It doesn't mean that they should be deeply rooted in the church, but by time, the work, the prayers, the work he is doing or she's doing with the kids will have an effect. So I think relationship is a huge thing. I think Abuna Song will emphasize that a lot. And I think this is maybe something, I'm not saying missing, but we need to work harder on establishing it. A relationship with the kids as early as possible, because it's not that easy to do it or establish it at the age of the high school if there isn't a servant who did it early on.
I think when we see signs in such kids, we have to give them extra attention. You know, like pay more attention, give them more time, give them more visits, follow up. So this is maybe a sign from God that, take care of that kid more than the others. And عشان he has special needs يعني.
I just want to add to it also that praying is very powerful. And also we try to help those kids that we serve to go to the Father of Confession, because sometimes like we cannot go deep into their life, but when you bring them to the Father of Confession, it's going to be very helpful.
Okay, Abuna, I have a question. How do we deal with this as from a servant point of view and from a parent point of view? Yani, do we let these kids closer to our kids, or do we kind of discriminate and say, hey, you cannot go with this kid, or what do we do?
I think this is a very touchy subject, and I think one that maybe a lot of groups are dealing with now. I agree with Abuna Moros that it's not our job to police and to stop. Like, I even don't like the way the question, not this question, but even the way the question was stated before, that like we're trying to stop them from sinning, which is true. But maybe we should look at it from the other perspective, and I think that's like what Abuna was saying, is that we're trying to teach them the right way, you know? So I think it comes from a different perspective about what is right and what is truth and what is better for them, in like truly better for them. As far as like the relationships between like friends and which friends are toxic and how they interact, this one, I think there has to be like some solid limits or boundaries. And there's some things within boundaries and some things that are outside the boundaries. And I think the tough thing as parents and as churches, where do we draw those boundaries? So I would say like one boundaries are, you know, like extracurricular activities with certain people that you know, maybe those should be off limits, and you as a parent have the right to dictate certain boundaries, that you have whatever boundaries you want. But at the same time, you should respect your kids, especially at different ages, to, like, the boundaries have to be appropriate to the age that you're dealing with. You know, you can't tell a high school kid or a college kid, you know, you can't go or maybe you can, but you know, at certain points you have to have boundaries appropriate for your youth, and you have to respect them. And if they want to go outside the boundaries, then there should be punishment, but you like a punishment in the way that that is suitable and without too much like one of the things is like the prodigal son, which we'll talk about tomorrow, is that the son wanted to go outside, faddal. You want to eat, you want to squander all your money, faddal, go ahead. But you're not going to get more. You're going to eat your pig's food. And then when you come and you realize what you've done, then you can come back. So I really like that example as a parent, like that there's boundaries, and if you go outside the boundaries, khalas, you're outside. Do what you want. You're free to do what you want, and you'll suffer. And when you want to come back and then live inside the house, then you're more than welcome to.
Just I want to add one more point. I did it when I was a Sunday school teacher. Sometimes the kids, because they know me, they listen to me many times, so sometimes they need to listen to the same message from different sources. So I am talking. I can write some. We did a magazine monthly magazine in Alexandria. So we write everything we want to say, just a written word, and encourage them to read. Then we can invite guest speakers from the servants, other servants, not to talk all the time. I was the only servant for many years. So I used to invite at least once a month or twice a month guest speakers from the servants of our church or other churches. They will say the same message, but in their way. But if the kid will listen to the same message from a new one, so it will give good impact to him. It will touch him. Oh, this is the same message. It is true, because my parents are saying that, my servant is saying that. This is a new servant. This is an old guy like Dr. Atif. He came and said the same message in his nice way. So all the people are saying that. So he will think about it. Oh, this is beneficial to me. I have to consider it. But if I'm just the only one is delivering the message, I can put it in a clip, I can put it in, so I can try to surround them and to let them expose to the message in different ways, so this will help and support them in this age span of their life.
If I understand the question right, you're saying, should we allow our kids as parents to hang out with the kids who are going astray? Right? This is the question. I think it goes back to the first answer. How do we have a relationship with our kids? Sometimes I see it. We are overprotective. Sometimes we are very scared. And the reaction of the kids, they want to try. We instigate their curiosity, okay? This is one. Two, we need to teach them how to discern. We won't be with our kids, as Abuna David said, we won't be with our kids until they are in college. I mean, that's why many of them, they want to go to living on campus, because it's mandatory. It's not mandatory, even if, but they want to be away, okay? And they want to try, and some of them, they get astray, and then they go back after exploring, but maybe with some damages. And the reason why, we were very overprotective. I mean, there is a very good book called The Prophet. It's not about raising up or bringing up kids. The Prophet, it's written by Gibran Khalil Gibran, or Gibran Khalil Gibran. He says, your kids are not yours. They are the kids of life. And life will never abide in the past. It goes on. So, I mean, we won't be able to overprotect our kids and keep them thinking the same way we are thinking. But we want to teach them how to deal with others. That's why I hate the language of, oh, these kids are bad. The kids of St. Mary are bad. And this discriminative language is not the best. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that I will let them explore and hang out with anybody. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying we need not to be very overprotective. We need to teach them how to deal with others in a very open-minded way, but on the other hand, in respect and knowing the boundaries, the borders, and how to deal with all kinds of people and set up the right limits. This needs, again, a relationship between the parents and their kids, and it should be established as early as possible. This is what will help them when they get into the tumultuous time of adolescence and teenage, that this will how we're going to help them learn what to do, not to wait for our instruction or to rebel against our instructions.
I just want to add a resource for that. There is a video of 6 sessions by Focus on the Family. It says, to be protective or prepared. And it's beautiful and it's very good. And we're teaching in the family meeting. This is a commercial for the family meeting.
I just had one comment though, I just wanted to add, which sort of Abuna David and Abuna Morros touched on, and I just wanted to emphasize a little bit. I think we also need to make a differentiation between, as a parent, when I tell my kids, especially at an older age like high school or whatever, where I'm saying, okay, no, you're not going out with so-and-so because, you know, maybe we're not comfortable with their behavior, or we don't want them to be going alone somewhere where maybe they do something inappropriate. That's one side of the equation. But I think we have to differentiate between that and the scenario where we sense sometimes that some kids are despised, discriminated against, even within the church. I think we have to start thinking as a community, how are we shunning people away sometimes? And this happens even, late adolescence, early adulthood, where we see stories of, oh, so-and-so, احنا عارفين حكايته, عارفين حكايتها, we know what they did, or we know whatever. And then these people, even when they do come back into the church, then they do not find a warm family environment and a community that's willing to embrace them. So I think this is something we have to teach our kids. How are we not judgmental, and how are we loving and caring, and within the church community, how do we embrace people versus, no, I don't think it's a good idea for you to go out with them and go to see whatever movie or whatever, because, that's a different context. I think the context is everything. But we also have to admit sometimes our communities are not as warm and welcoming and open, and we have to teach that to our kids. We see this a lot, especially with the adolescents, the teenagers, the high schoolers, and maybe even into college, where this is how we lose people. When people feel isolated because they're stigmatized, they're marked, and then they never come back. So I think we just have to be careful with that one as well.
So how to get rid of idea of stereotyping or labeling people with rubbish or bad people? How to get rid of stereotyping or labeling people?
I mean, so many, where can we go? Judge not that you not be judged. Who are we? There's one judge. There's one judge, and we do not look for vengeance. We don't look for judgment. We have to teach. We don't by just not doing it, by not saying don't do that because of this aspect. Who are we to judge? There's only one avenger. There's one person, as Romans 12 says, right? I just wanted to just under that point, this point before we go to another question, just underline again. Because sometimes it's just the focus part, right? I just want to repeat, my sentiments with Abuna David. We focus on so much, be careful, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We're so much focus on what not to do. Show them the light. They won't like the darkness. Show them the truth. They won't like the lies. So if we focus, we're so scared of this part, we forget to it's as if being with God is not enjoyable. We're so afraid that it's we just say don't do this because it's not enjoyable. It's so negative. Let's just refocus it, as he mentioned. Show them how nice it is in the light, and how as much as they enjoy the light, they'll choose not to choose the darkness.
About the stigmatism, I think if we really understand where these people are coming that we're stigmatizing, then I don't think we would stigmatize them. Because maybe they're going through some really tough situations. Actually, I think that's it's true for most of the people that fall into that type of category. They're carrying burdens that they shouldn't be carrying, and we're seeing the effects of that in Sunday school?
I would like to share like a real situation happened to me. We just moved in. I have 5 kids, and I found a new family coming. We don't know anything. My husband advised we need to help them. We don't know them. So I invite their kids to come to play with my kids. So everything seemed to be fine. Those boys start to talk a bad language. We don't want to go to school, and we don't want to do a homework. And kids were, yeah, we don't want to go homework. And why we go to school? And I start, instead of helping those, I start very stressful situation, really. Like I become like everything the kids say, I have to say, no, we have to do this. And the kids start to, why we do that? And I become, instead of helping those family, I put myself in very, very stressful situation. And the end of the story, and instead of helping them, I said, no, enough is enough. I will not call no, you don't come anymore. I feel bad because I'm not helping them, and I didn't follow what my husband said. But I don't know how can I protect the kids now, because they don't want to go to school, and I cannot stay every single second with them in home. And I become like, I cannot go and give my back to those kids because I don't know what they're saying to those kids. So how can you be a Christian and welcoming those people and show Christ, and at the same time how can I deal with this real situation? I know I would like to show love to them, and I would like to help them and be a good Christian example, but I don't know how I deal with it. Should I keep them with the kids? I feel bad if I separate them. And I know they need help, but at the same time I cannot help myself, I don't know. It's a real situation happen recent, so I would like a guide and advice in this situation.
Well, when it comes to parenting and raising children, I don't know much. I usually refer to my wife. She's the expert on that, so I'll let her handle that.
I was trying to hide. I think that's a really good question. There's a difference. I mean, as parents, it's so natural for us to want to protect our kids. And unfortunately, a lot of our parent, as some of the priests have said, stems from fear. When we parent from fear, we parent not in the best way. So there has to be, we balance wisdom with, so discernment with, the service, the wanting to show the love, for example. I don't know how young your children are. Okay, yeah. So from a very early age, we want to talk to them about the good influences, the positive influences of their friends, and that starts from a very early age, right? Because like you said, and like all the priests were saying, we're not going to be able to follow them wherever they go, right? Whether when they're playing outside in the park with their friends, or even in church when they're playing with their friends, at school, and later on in college. So from a very early age, we have to start educating them, giving that awareness of what makes a good friend. What is it, and what happens when you notice that someone that you're interacting with is starting to be have some sort of a negative influence on you. What do you do in that situation? And we even role play some of that at home. So let's say they come home and they tell you, or even if in your situation you heard the kids repeating some of the words that their friends were saying, you have a conversation with them about that. What do you think life would look like if you don't go to school, if you don't do your homework? And instead of saying something negative about the friend, you talk to them about what's right? And the same thing as you guys were saying, we don't want to label anybody as bad. We don't label people as bad. We don't label a certain friend as bad. Because one, that will teach your child to keep labeling everybody, right? So it will teach judgment. And two, they might actually insist on, if you as a parent, especially in adolescence, if you as a parent tell a child, your friend is bad, don't play with that person, guess what? They'll want to play with that person more, right? So we don't want to label, and we don't want to forbid one of our children to play with another child. Instead, we want to focus on teaching them what makes a good friend, how to choose wisely your friends. Sure. Yes. So even in that situation, you can say, and because we always say that too, it doesn't matter where, it could be at home, it could be at church, just because you're playing with kids at church, it doesn't mean that everybody you're going to learn from everybody the right things. So whether it's your home, whether it's at church, whether it's at school, they have to learn to choose, who's a good influence, who's not, how to navigate situations that they're in, where they're noticing there's a bad influence, like let's say a group of friends are gossiping, what are we going to do about that? One of her friends is starting to tell her about dating, how do you handle that? So instead, we're teaching them how to handle situations, how to continue to choose wisely in whatever stage they're in, without labeling someone as bad.
Regarding labeling people, like I remember what happened with Saint Athanasius. Like when they talked to him, Arius is fighting you. He said, our enemy is not Arius, it is devil. So I don't know, regarding kids-wise, I feel like it is better to tell them about kids who are behaving so bad, devil deceiving them. We need to help them. You have a rule in the church. You need to teach them what Jesus said. You need to tell them that. You need to pray for them. By this way, they don't label these children as bad. They know that they are weak because devil deceives them, and they know that they can be deceived one day from devil the same like their kids. Those kids are not deceived just because they are bad, but because, the devil deceives them one day and he can deceive them another day, and we have to help each other when devil deceives us.
I think on that, and maybe with what Sophie was saying, I think we need to promote values. This is very important. This goes back to what Abuna James was saying and Abuna David, the positive thing. So you build a value system that is consistent, that you always refer to, and you do it yourself. Stick-to-itiveness. So stick to your values and promote them, talk about them, build a system of values through continuous conversation and communication with your kid. I think that's the best way. I mean, their kids, they will be exposed to all kinds of things. They're exposed to what is beyond what we can imagine, okay? But I think the key, how are we promoting values? And again, we should be promoting these values in our life as examples to them. And two, that we should be consistent on our values. Don't use it somewhere and do the other way in other time. Number three, do it yourself.
Just one quick one-liner. So it's my turn now for a commercial. So those were actually the last two intentional parenting that we do online, which is for all of Chicago. If you want to join us, raising the standard. We talked about values, raising the values, and the month right after that, we talked about teaching them. So these are all the discussions we're having every month for all the parents of Chicago. And your commercial break is now over. Online, last Tuesday of the month.
I was trying to hide too, but I'm not a parent, but I agree with what Tan Sophie was saying about like raising our kids is more important than like trying to like tell them no or trying to protect them from something. Instead, like teaching them how to deal with the situation, because if you have many kids in the church raised that way, then you're going, like in high school, there's going to be a strong youth group and a strong knit group of people that are going to support one another in growing in faith and doing the right thing. And so when you have a group of high schoolers or a group of college or a good youth group supporting each other and saying like good things to do instead of, so when someone goes astray, instead of like a servant talking to them or like a priest going to talk to them, that's very important. But if a youth group or a group of kids come and support them and talk to them and encourage them, then that's going to have a much stronger influence if there's a youth group, a strong youth group there.
For this stage of development, I'm talking to Nabila, from 2 to 7, they are like a dough. You can shape them the way you like. Huh? So you can, if you put a strong influence of the love of God, they will be shaped with the love of God in their heart. And there are excellent resources in this country. I was amazed and fascinated by the resources for this stage of development. The DVDs, if your friends come from the neighbors, put some DVD. They are attracted by visual aids, not just talking. Be nice, don't cheat, don't lie. But if you put DVDs for them, videos, Christian videos, they will be attached and they will touch their hearts. If you just plant the love of God in their hearts and how much Jesus loves them. I was fascinated by these resources. The Lost Sheep, there's a DVD called Bootsy the Lamb, and how much Jesus loves this lamb. And so try to get these positive things for them. This stage is excellent, very easy to touch their hearts by the love of God. Just get these resources from Christian bookstores, and they will grow in the love of God.
One just a little thing we tried here at church to do etiquettes, like etiquettes for the deacons, etiquettes for Sunday school, etiquettes for attending church and being at church, even for the adults. And it's not only enough to hang them on the wall, to put them in a frame and hang them on the wall. It's like by repeating them. You know, like we were trying to do one etiquette per week in the Sunday school class that the servant repeat. The more you repeat things for them at home, at Sunday school, for deacons, for adults, the more it will stick in their mind and the more they will apply it. And this is how we, formulate them or enforce it in them. Yeah.
I hope you don't mind if I sit down. Best. One thing too, kind of going back along with what I forgot what Jabuna, but we were talking about more so like understanding that these, like being a servant again, because I'm not a parent, but being a servant going on when it comes to the fact that these kids have their own lives that they're struggling through. Like, I mean, even us as servants, we have our own personal lives that we struggle through, and like I feel like that's one thing in common that every single member of any church anywhere has in common, that we all struggle through something in life. And that this reminds me a lot of one of the songs that we're actually teaching to our younger kids at our own church. And the lyric goes along the lines of, and they'll know we are Christians by our love, and they'll know that we are Christians by the love that we show to them. So I feel like when it comes to not ostracizing people if they like have left the church and have come back, and going along with what Abuna Theodore was saying, like how we shouldn't be super judgmental, I don't even think it's more kind of also going on with everything that's being said, but this idea on how instead of judging the person, we raise them right, or more so like instead of judging the person, show them what you would expect, not just of that person, but of like anyone who were to treat you, like treating others the way you want to be treated, like having that love and showing that love. Like they'll know we are Christians by love. They'll know, that the way not necessarily that we treat them, but the way that we even like ask about them. I feel like that's one big thing that we kind of neglect a lot of the time, is that we're all so very busy in our own lives that we don't even like stretch out a lending hand to not just even if it is like missions in Africa or even here in our own services, we don't even stretch our hands out to our neighbors. So I feel like we could do more of the love giving and the love showing, more so of the love teaching.
I want to actually, with what Sarah's saying, but Verena, I like what Verena said, because it goes back, I think it wraps up all what we said, that when we teach our kids and we give them values and we make them convinced and able to discern what's right and what's wrong, they won't just behave in a good way, they will be leaders. I mean, I think what Verena said is about leadership. I mean, the group of kids will be leaders. We don't need to grab the kids to Abuna to tell them what's right and what's wrong. They will be teaching each other. They're not shielded. They're exposed to all kinds of things. But when they know their way, when they know their values, when they stick to their values, they will promote these values even among each other in a nice way, in a loving way, non-judgmental way, but in a very clear way, sturdy way. I mean, all of that. So it's about, we are bringing up leaders that way. So among themselves. And not just by holding a microphone like the one I'm holding, but just being clear in the values, in the way, in their Christian beliefs.
Okay, so I think that sort of almost wraps it up. Just one or two quick things. In about 3 minutes, if we can just, after, we're going to do another commercial, we have a commercial. So after the commercial, we'll want everybody to move up on the pews, and then we'll have someone take a picture from here so we can have our group photo. And then dinner will be downstairs in the basement, like at the time when we had lunch. And we want to thank everybody, of course, who came and encouraged us by participating and all that. So now for our commercial break. We have, in terms of service, we have a lot of services happening in the next couple of months. A big one is our mission trips. So we have one, the Chicago area is going to Kenya in end of May, like 29th of May, and then into June. And Abuna Yohanna and Dr. Atif will be leading that group. So I think Uncle Atif wanted just to give us a quick blurb about that, because it's very inspiring for those who participate in it, whether young or old.
Today, at lunch, I was talking with one of the servants, and he told me something that is very encouraging. He said, there is a change in the youth that come back from Kenya. There is definite change in their lives, and of course, change to the better, not to the worse. The thing about Kenya, I would like all of you, if you're not coming, encourage people, because the presence of Ambabulus, Abuna Yohanna, and all the servants there, and the dedication, the spiritual fervence in that service there, the discipline, the amount of rewards that God, spiritual rewards that God gives, not us, also the people there. I cannot describe it to you. And you see, that's why, in spite of my age, I still go. Because I think it's one of the highlights of our lives, Ferrer and myself, to be able to go to Kenya in order to benefit. We benefit, not we serve people there. If somebody says, I'm going there to serve, no, wrong. You're going there to be served and to see the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of God. Ask Abuna Yohanna how many prisoners. You will see them as if you are seeing them in the day of Pentecost, being converted, taking the communion, and praising God and singing hymns. It's unbelievable. And you see that in many, many areas. And if not you yourself and I myself, get changed by going there. Why I'm saying this? Because there is some lukewarmness about the international trip. This is a lifetime opportunity. And we have it for kids, not kids, youth, from as they enter college. In other words, they are senior in high school now, enter college, and above. I am 82. I don't think any of you is 82. Not like Caleb yet. But it's so important. It's in the 29th of May to the 15th of June. Money is not a problem. Not because I'm going to give you money, I'm not. But you can always ask for help. There are a lot of people that are in our community that would love to encourage you to go. You just get a little piece of paper and say, we are going, and I need help from you. So the guy will write a check for the Church of St. Mary or for the Church of St. Mark, and under it say the trip, okay? And we collect all this money, and instead of paying all the money, we decrease it for you according to what the people have collected, you see? And I'm sure there are so many generous people, but how can they know if nobody tells them or if nobody is going? I urge you to tell your youth to come, because this is one of the remedies to the problems of the United States and raising people in the United States, and make your youth as people who know God and become servants for life. See? I want you to know that there is a preparation before they go. And everything is very easy. And Sylvia is here? Mention. Sylvia Tanius will help us, although she's not going. And we need to really know, because the prices of the ticket is going to go up as we delay. And so it's online. And Abuna has the way. I can't tell you anything about online because I'm still off the line. It will cost very. I never heard of tickets that cheap in my last 10, 20 years. It's $700 or 800 or something. That's ridiculous. 800, you know, one time it cost us $1,600. But the whole trip will take about $1,500 because of the expenses there and the donations and all that business. Okay? You spend time, money in all kinds of things, I think. I think, you know, the people spend money. يا أبونا ساعدني على المعروف.
Yeah, it is a life-changing experience. It's very, very, very good. For the young age, it is inspiring. It's very helpful. Maybe we have some of the youth that they have this experience. Last year, they can tell us how much they enjoyed it, and we have Verena, Maria. So it is online, the registration, and we will try to extend the time, because it should be this Monday, the end of this price. So we will try to.
Photo, I need to ask everybody if everybody can just come and fill all the pews, so that when we have the picture, and then like everybody, whichever is easier. I don't know if will everybody fit up there. I don't know. It might be easier for the priests. The priest will just stand here, and everybody can. Yeah, but if everybody comes close and moves to the center, forward and center, then we'll take the picture with everybody, and then we can take it from there. Maybe we just turn the chairs. Yeah. Yeah.